back to Across the Globe. My name is Stephanie, and this is the third and hopefully final video in our Q-Snap series. You may notice we're filming at my house, and Allison is not here, and that's because she doesn't use Q-Snaps, and so it doesn't make sense for her to sit through this when she doesn't like them. But she did start using vintage hoops, which is, a lot of you guys will know, is one of my big things. So we're very excited for her in that respect. Okay, so this, like I said, it's the third video, and I really thought I was only gonna need to make 2 Q-Snap videos. What happened? So basically, I made a video on how, like, all about them, like all the things you need to know to like buy them, accessories, whatever. And then I made one just about getting them loaded, thinking that some people would only want to watch that. But then Coco Creates 26 commented that she had a really hard time putting her Q-Snap together the first time, and I realized I'd forgotten to actually, like, I loaded one, but I didn't put it together. So I showed you guys what they looked like in the package, and I put fabric in one, but I didn't show you how to get it from like the state it's in the package to this, so you can actually use it. And that was silly because actually I also had a very hard time loading or assembling the Q-Snap the first time I used it. So I thought, okay, well, if we're going to do one more video on Q-Snaps, just showing you that doesn't seem worth a whole video. So I also went through, the first 2 videos had amazing comments from stitchers who are really experienced with their own Q-Snap tips. And I've put them into groups of topics, and I thought I would go ahead and share with you guys so that you have, if you are starting your Q-Snap journey, you have all the information that you need to get started. And yes, this will end up being like an hour total video about Q-Snaps, which is excessive, but that's what we do here at Cross Stitch the Globe. Now we have 3 kinds of videos on our channel. Today is Flosstube University. It is where Allison and I are putting together videos to teach someone how to cross stitch from A to Z, short, like single 1 or 2 topic videos. They're mostly for people who buy, well, the goal was for people who buy patterns in our Etsy shop to be able to learn to cross stitch if they were new. Because I learned how to cross stitch on Flosstube, and I find this is like an amazing resource. But everyone is welcome. All new stitchers are welcome. And if you're not a new stitcher, we'd love if you watch the video, which ours already started, so you probably are, and leave comments and tips, because those tips are really helpful. And then on Monday, these come out on Thursdays, and on Mondays we do our Flosstube episodes. If you've never watched a Flosstube before, I hope you subscribe and stick around and watch it. Our most recent one came out last Monday, and they come out every 2 weeks, and they are a very serious overview into our personal stitching, which we actually do have a lot of, and normally I have a lot back here, but it's all at the state fair. And that brings me to our Flosstube extras, because we have videos in between those Flosstubes where we do topics like what it was like tips we learned entering the state fair, or our next Flosstube extra that's going to come out is going to be free Halloween cross stitch patterns and free fall cross stitch patterns. So, and those come out in between the main Flosstube episodes, because we just don't have enough time to talk about all the things we want to talk about. So if you're not subscribed, we hope you subscribe and stick around, and then let's dive in. So if you get a Q-Snap, they don't come ready to stitch. Like if you buy a hoop, you just get the hoop. Like it's a circle or it's an oval, and it's just ready to go. I guess if you get a nerd hoop, it's a square or a rectangle, and it's just ready to go. But if you get a Q-Snap, it will come like this, so that it will come with whatever pieces. And in the video all about Q-Snaps, I did go over Q-Snap sizes. So this is an 8x8, I believe. All right. So the way that you assemble it is really easy. Now, I don't bother taking the clamps off if the clamps are already on, but it might be easier to see what I'm doing if I take the clamps off. So it's going to come in the bag, and it's going to come more like this. It usually comes with the clamp on and then the connector piece off. You're going to see how these connectors are the same on both sides, so it doesn't really matter. But you're going to start by putting the connector in each of these. And it's funny, this part you don't do that much, because once you put them together, you don't really take the connectors off. There are also extenders, so if you want to mix and match sizes and change sizes, there's 3-inch extenders that make them longer. All right, so what you want to do is put one side together, and I will assemble them with the Q-snap and without the Q-snap, but it doesn't really matter. So you want to put one side together, you want to put the other side together. You don't want to put 3 pieces together because the 4th piece will not fit in. You need to put 2 and 2, and then you need to do the last 2 pieces at the same time. And for some reason, a lot of people, me included, get stuck on that. So let me show you what I mean. So if you tried to do 3 pieces, and then you try to put this in, it can be really annoying. It can feel like you're gonna break your Q-snap. It comes in at a weird angle. So that is, okay, so I guess technically you can do it, though I have been using this Q-snap for a while. I don't know if right out of the box it would have let me. But anyway, so don't do that, don't do that. Do 2 and 2 and line them up and put them in at the same time. All right, then when you load your fabric, you're good to go. If you don't load your fabric, I keep these in project bags. I keep them kind of unassembled, but you can also keep them like this with the clamps on. So that's how to put one together. It's so funny that the 3-in-1 worked really easy on video. Like, of course it did, but in real life, I got stuck for a long time and other people get stuck too. So that is not what I would encourage you to do, but if it works for you, great. All right, now let's go into tips from other stitchers. So I separated these into topics. We're going to talk about off-brand Q-snaps, people's experiences, loose Q-snaps, Q-snap sizes, fabric margins, loading Q-snaps, protecting stitches, and accessories. Now, these are all additional tips because those are all topics that I discussed in the last 2 videos in the series, which I will link to below. So these are kind of additional things to think about. But if the whole topic or concept sounds new, then go back and watch those videos. All right, as far as off-brand Q-snaps go, we talked about how I know some people who love off-brand Q-snaps. I know some people who don't like them. I know that the word on the street is they're not as tight. So here's people's real experiences. Recovering bookhoarder, who has a great Flosstube, she wrote, accidentally bought a generic one as my first one and hated it. Once I got my hands on a brand name one, total game changer. Callie Ginny, who also has a channel, said, okay, so I've gotten the knockoff brand only and it works pretty good, but I don't know if I'd say it's drum tight, so I purchased a Q-snap to try and I'll check the difference. I will try to remember to come back and comment. And Callie, Jenny, I would very much like to hear your experiences when you have compared. Terry Ford 4245 said, on the off-brand snaps, you cannot interchange them to make special sizes like you can with the Q-snap brand. So I talked about how I like to interchange, like, so you can take an 8x8 and like a 6x6 and mix 2 pieces, and now you have an 8x6. Or a lot of people like to make an 8x11. And what people are saying is you can't do that with the off-brand Q-snaps. Anne Ryan 8274, who has a lot of really great advice sprinkled throughout here. So from now on, I'll just refer to her as Anne, but that is her her YouTube name. Said, I've used both snaps and non-branded ones, depending on what was available at my local LNS here in New Zealand. We're not as blessed with options as you are in the States. I really find them much the same. The major difference is that you can't mix and match between brands, which is super interesting. And also, yes, Q-snap availability depends on a lot of factors, including are you willing to pay the shipping for certain places and customs and things. So if you only have access to off-brand Q-snaps, it sounds like that's going to be totally fine for most people. Amy K. Graham on Instagram. Oh, that is her. She said this on our YouTube. Commented this on our YouTube video. I'm sick. I have a cold and it's affecting my cognitive abilities. But anyway, Amy K. Graham, that's what she is on Instagram, said, I actually prefer the non-Q-snap brand ones because I find them a bit easier to load and adjust the fabric in. In order to keep my fabric tight, I put a piece of quilt batting or felt under each side's clamp and my fabric stays really tight, which is a great tip. And I actually have some, don't ask why, but I have quilt batting on the floor under my desk. So if you don't know what that is, I think most people know what felt is, but if for some reason you don't know what quilt batting is, it's this. I use it to finish cross stitch pieces. I guess some people use it to quilt. I will hopefully be using it to quilt in the future, but tangent. Okay, loose Q-snaps. Jen Mall 53 said, you just use a piece of felt for the clamps to be tighter if loosening. Lori L 1395 said, I have heard of numerous people putting them in a dishwasher run on the top rack to tighten up the clamps as well, which is very interesting. I've never heard that tip. I've heard boiling them in hot water or in boiling water. I'm struggling today, but I have never heard of putting them in the dishwasher. That's really smart. All right. I don't have any Q-snaps that are too loose yet, but I'm going to tuck these. I don't have any Q-snaps that are too loose yet, but I'm going to tuck all these ideas for another day. All right, on Q-snap sizes. Anne again said, I agree that the 8-inch, which is this one, is about the largest I'm comfortable to stitch with while like in hand or like holding it. I have an 11 by 11 that is a little bit big for me. I still use it, but it feels a little big. Danielle B. Crafting Corner said 8 by 11 is my jam, but only in the horizontal orientation because looking to the top of an 11-inch Q-snap isn't for my neck. I did Frankenstein an 8 by 14, and that means she took an 8 and a 14 and put them together. Because I was very motivated to have my whole project width in the snap. Janet Crossstitch said, I've been using Q-snaps and never thought of mixing sizes, just mixed my 6-inch and 8-inch and love it. I use a 6 and 8-inch mix all the time. Fabric margins. Anne said, if you really don't have enough fabric margin for the Q-snap, sew on an extra strip of sturdy calico. Same solution for adding extra margin for stretching for framing. You don't have to, but a solution if the short margin is bugging you. So Q-snaps need a larger margin than hoops because it just does. Like these are taller and it takes up more space and you need more margin. So if you're having trouble with that, like let's say you cut your fabric not thinking about that, which I've definitely done. What she's saying is that you can sew extra fabric, and she recommends a sturdy calico around it so that then you can load it in the Q-snap. Okay, and also said, one thing I found is that you need more space between the edge of the snap and your actual stitching area than you do with hoops because the snap is higher or taller. So what she's saying is like on a hoop, you might be able to get a stitch in here, like right here, but maybe on a Q-snap, you wouldn't be able to. One thing I finally, if you're like me, trying to get that last stitch in and you don't have enough thread to both end, thread the needle and finish it off, slackening the Q-snap clamps as much as possible usually gives you enough play in the fabric to position your needle through the stitches on the back and then thread it and pull it through. Of course, you may not play thread chicken. So what she's saying is she loosens it and that gives her like a little bit more space to play with for the thread, which is very interesting. All right, loading Q-snaps. And also had a tip about loading Q-snaps. She said, I really struggled getting the first clamp straight with the grain of the linen. Laying the snap on a table with the top of the fabric lined up helped, but now I can do it in hand. So you do get better at this. And when I did the loading the fabric video, yeah, I had a hard time doing it like on camera like this. But when you do it on the table, sometimes you might find that you just need to do it 1 or 2 or 3 times to get it exactly the way you want it. All right, protecting stitches. Tracy Daly 6980 said, I use felt with all my Q-snaps. I use ribbon with nurge hoops, with nurges and hoops for the safety of my stitching. Anne said, I use pieces of felt to pad between the snap and the frame to protect my stitches on larger pieces of work. I have rectangular felt pieces, white, so no risk of color bleeding onto the project, about 1/2 inch larger than the clamp. This also helps gets the clamps off when they're new. They can be really, really tight, which yes, I've had really tight Q-snaps that I had a hard time. She says they'll loosen with wear. But she's had one that was so tight that she had to like take it off and slide it. So putting the felt under helps. D.A.Z. Stitcher said, I slide my Q-snaps off. If they are over stitching, I loosen the fabric. So when she's taking her stuff off, she's saying she just slides these off like this. But if they're over the stitching, she loosens it before sliding it to help with protecting her stitching. And then Tracy Schroed 9047 said, my snap ripped the serge edge of my fabrics, which I did say that I had heard one horror story of someone's fabric getting ripped in a Q-snap, and Tracy saying it did rip the edge of her fabric. And so that's why people sometimes choose to use felt. So just something to think about. I use the edge, like the margin of my fabric, and so as a protector, but it's up to each person what they want to do. And then as far as accessories, Amy Graham said, a fun accessory I found on Amazon is a clip-on sign holder. It clips onto the Q-snap frame and will hold a paper pattern. Great for retreats. Norma Hansen 5913 said, I buy fabric steering wheel covers from the dollar store to use as grime guards. They fit in 8x8 Q-snap perfectly, which is this size. And you can't beat the price, she said. And then Dee said, I don't fold my excess fabric in. If there's a lot, I shove it in a grime guard. I feel it might stretch out the clamp space. So something I hadn't really thought about is when you do put extra stuff under, are you stretching these out and making that loosening problem faster? And that I don't know. So not putting extra, but then putting it in a grime guard or using clamps or something to help with the excess fabric is a way to protect that. Now, I don't know if there's a definitive answer on if putting the excess fabric under the clamp makes it stretch out faster or not. So it's just things to think about. And then Danielle said, I find I can only use bobbin holders when it's 1 to 2 layers of fabric because the corner gets hard to hold down. Grime guard could keep it down, but I've stopped using them as they eat up too much of my stitching space. So she's saying the grime guard for her comes out too far over the space. So I find I like to use the magnetic ties too, particularly over the corners. And magnetic ties are something my sister uses on her hoops that we talked about, and I'll link to them below in the description. So those are Real Stitchers comments about their experiences with Q-snap. So to me, it's one of those things where like you do just want to just like, if you want to try one, just buy one and get started. But also, if you get stuck, here are 3 videos to help you if you get stuck at any point in the process. And then feel free to leave a comment with any questions you may have if you do decide to try one and get stuck. I want to thank all of the commenters who left those amazing comments. And we really do get wonderful comments on every one of our Flosstube University videos from experienced stitchers. A lot of these folks even comment on multiple videos. So, they're really a great resource, and this is the first time I took those comments and published them as their own, like as part of their own video, because I think it's really important to hear people's experiences with this, because you don't want to invest too much in accessories you're not going to use or not know about an accessory you really like, and hearing how people really do things. You don't want your fabric to get, you don't want your stitch to squish, you don't want your fabric torn. There's just lots of little things to think about. So thank you guys so much for commenting, and thank you, Coco, for reminding me that I didn't actually put one together and that part was hard the first time. It gets really easy after that. So if you have any questions about Q-snaps, leave it in the comments. If you haven't checked out those other 2 videos and you want to know how I load them and deal with excess fabric or all about them, like even more, I'll link those below, and then I'll link like a supplies list of all the stuff that I talked about in all those videos. So if you're looking for like what products I'm talking about, those will be in a supplies list. And like I said, Monday we're gonna have free Halloween patterns. Then 2 weeks later we'll have free fall patterns as our extras, and then we'll have a regular Flosstube in between. So, oh, if you made it to this point in the video, leave a hammer emoji and that for like assembling, putting it together. That will be our secret language that you made it to the end of the video. So thanks so much. Bye guys.